And now that we have all these different ideas for problem framing, we're faced with the often difficult task of selecting which framing we'll go forward with. It can be challenging, not only because of the number of good ideas you have, but also because the ideas are quite abstract at this point, so it can be hard to judge them based on their potential. In addition, different team members will have different opinions, and this makes it even harder to come to consensus. I'll share a couple of tools that can be useful, but you should be aware that it's not easy. So be prepared to invest time and energy into the process. It's important for team members to work together constructively and to be willing to compromise and be creative in addressing the issues that arise. One tool we often use is called multistage voting, and it's used when you want to get group consensus around a large number of options. It's a very subjective tool because it's based entirely on the team members' opinions and preferences, but it can be very useful in a situation where a team is choosing between many good options, and they just need consensus to move forward. In the first round, team members are allowed to vote for several of their top choices. The number of votes they have is usually about a third or a quarter of the number of options that there are. The team discusses the results, and then those options with the fewest votes are eliminated, and the next round of voting occurs. As the number of options decrease, so too does the number of votes that each member has, so that by the last round, each team member only gets one vote. Between each round, there's an opportunity for discussion so that team members are okay with the options that are being eliminated and those that are moving forward. We often use this method when a team is choosing a project at a co-design summit. Another method that we use is called the Innovation Impact Matrix, and it's a grid that has on one axis the potential impact that a problem framing might have, and on the other, its potential for innovation. What you do is you select your top 6 to 10 ideas from the problem framing idea generation session, and you discuss them, talking about their potential for impact and their potential for innovation, and you place them on the grid. Be sure that you compare the different options to each other so that they're in the right relative position on the grid. We'd like to work on projects in the upper right-hand quadrant, those that have the high potential for impact and a high potential for innovation. But there may not be a lot of options in that space. If that's the case, you might think about an innovative idea and see whether or not you can think of how to make it have more impact. Or you might choose one that had a high potential for impact and rethink it to think about ways that you could have a greater degree of innovation or creativity in the solutions that would come out of that framing. Once you have a selection in this quadrant, then you can use multi-stage voting in order to choose the one that you'll go forward with. It may be that there are other characteristics that are very important to your problem, and if that's the case, you might relabel the axes and use different criteria in order to judge your solutions. Once you've finished the process, it's important to be able to communicate your vision for where you're headed with other people. We call this a path statement, partly because it describes your journey forward, but also because it's an acronym. It's important that you describe the problem and the context and provide a little bit of background information. You'll also want to discuss your approach, which is your problem framing. The targets are also a key part of the path statement. These could be the potential beneficiaries of your project, but also performance target that you might be trying to achieve. And then finally, it's also important that your path statement has some heart and humanity to it. This is important because it describes why your project is important and why people should care about it. And it also allows you the opportunity to share your vision for the benefits of your project. Not only does a path statement allow you to share your project with other people, be they collaborators, community partners, or potential funders, it's also a good way to be sure that the entire team is on the same page about how you're going to move forward with the project.